Have you ever felt like life is happening to you, not with you? Like your emotions, your failures, your environment are somehow in control, instead of you? What if the real power to change your life isn't out there, but within you? What if you're not actually powerless, but simply unaware of how much power you truly hold? Welcome to a journey of rediscovering your inner strength. If you're seeking clarity, discipline, and lasting transformation, you're in the right place. Make sure to subscribe because we dive deep into timeless wisdom, updated for modern minds like yours. Let's begin. 1. The hidden power most people never claim. Most people go through life unaware of the greatest power they possess, the power to control their response. The ancient Stoics like Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca understood this truth deeply. They didn't waste energy trying to control the external world, which is full of chaos, randomness, and injustice. Instead, they focused on the one thing truly within their grasp, their reaction to it. This isn't just a comforting philosophy. It's a way of reclaiming your personal agency in a world constantly trying to steal it. Think about how often people surrender their peace to circumstances they can't control. Someone cuts them off in traffic and they carry that anger for hours. A critical comment from a stranger on social media ruins their day. A minor inconvenience turns into a full-blown emotional crisis. Why? Because they've unknowingly handed over the keys to their emotional well-being to forces outside themselves. The Stoic rejects this. The Stoic says, no, my emotions are mine, my responses are mine, and no one can take that from me unless I allow it. This may sound like a simple idea, but living it requires tremendous awareness and strength. It requires you to pause in the heat of the moment and say, what part of this do I control? The answer is always the same. Your interpretation, your attitude, your decision. You can't control what someone else says or does, but you can control what it means to you. That is the hidden power most people never claim. Now imagine how different life would be if you lived this principle fully. You would stop being reactive. You wouldn't chase validation, because your sense of worth would come from within. You wouldn't fear rejection, because no one can reject the part of you that you've already accepted. You wouldn't crumble under stress, because your peace wouldn't depend on perfect conditions. You would become what the Stoics called a fortress within yourself, unshaken by storms, grounded in truth. This power isn't reserved for the ancient wise. It's yours, right now. But to claim it, you must stop giving away your peace to every annoyance, every insult, every outcome that didn't go your way. You have to take responsibility not just for your actions, but for your emotions, your thoughts, and your story. You must stop saying, they made me angry, or that ruined my day, and instead say, I chose anger in that moment, but I can choose differently now. This is not weakness. This is not passivity. This is strength in its purest form. The strength to remain calm when provoked, the strength to stay centered when others are losing themselves, the strength to act with intention rather than impulse. It's a quiet power, a power that doesn't need to shout, because it doesn't come from ego, it comes from alignment with reality. The world is full of people trying to change others, fix circumstances, or avoid discomfort at all costs. That's a losing game. What the Stoics realized is that the most radical change happens when you turn inward and master your own mind. You stop trying to dominate outcomes and instead focus on shaping your response. That's when you stop being a victim of life and become its architect. This is how warriors think. This is how philosophers live. They don't deny emotion, but they don't let it rule them. They don't ignore hardship, but they don't collapse under it. They see each challenge as a test of their ability to practice their principles, and in doing so, they rise above the chaos instead of drowning in it. So the next time something goes wrong, and it will, ask yourself, where is my power in this moment? It's not in fixing the past or controlling others. It's in how you respond. Claim that power, practice it, live it, because once you do, you'll realize that nothing can truly harm a person who owns their mind. 2. Building inner strength, one thought at a time. Inner strength isn't about building walls around your heart. It's about developing the kind of discipline that frees you. The Stoics weren't concerned with looking tough. They were focused on being unbreakable where it mattered most, inside. Self-discipline in this context isn't about punishing yourself or becoming robotic. It's about becoming someone who cannot be easily shaken by fear, by desire, or by chaos. It's about training your mind moment by moment, thought by thought. Marcus Aurelius, despite being the emperor of Rome, turned inward every night to journal his thoughts. Not for publication, not for glory, but for clarity. He was surrounded by power, temptation, and conflict, yet he used his quiet reflections to anchor himself in humility and purpose. Every word he wrote was an exercise in self-discipline, an act of sharpening his inner compass. When you read his meditations today, you're not just reading a book, you're witnessing a warrior sharpening his sword. Seneca, too, believed in training the will. He practiced going without comforts, sleeping on hard ground, and enduring cold baths. Not because he enjoyed suffering, but because he understood this truth. The mind becomes stronger through voluntary adversity. If you can, face discomfort on your own terms, then life can no longer surprise you. You stop fearing what you've already endured by choice. And Epictetus, once a slave, taught that the true battleground is within. He didn't measure success by wealth or status, but by character. First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do, he taught. That's the essence of Stoic discipline, clarity followed by consistent action. Thought, then practice, not once, but daily. You don't build inner strength in grand, heroic moments. You build it in the small, ordinary ones. When you feel the urge to lash out and instead pause. When you're tempted to scroll mindlessly and instead reflect. When you could blame the world, but instead take ownership. These moments may seem insignificant, but they are the foundation of who you become. Imagine your mind as a garden. Every thought you plant, every reaction you cultivate, is either strengthening your discipline or weakening it. Are you feeding your fears? Or are you nurturing courage? Are you rehearsing your anger? Or are you practicing patience? Every thought is a choice. And over time, those choices shape your identity. This is why journaling is powerful. Not because it's trendy, but because it slows you down. It forces you to confront your thinking, examine your beliefs, and clarify your values. It becomes a mirror for your inner world and a workshop for your future self. The same goes for reflection, meditation, and intentional silence. These aren't escapes from life. They're tools to enter it more fully with strength and direction. People often wait for motivation to strike before acting with discipline. But Stoics knew that's backwards. Action creates clarity. Consistency builds strength. The discipline to sit with discomfort, to challenge negative thinking, and to hold yourself to higher standards. That's what transforms a life. That's what turns chaos into order. Each moment of self-discipline is a vote for the person you want to become. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to practice, even when no one's watching, especially then, because true inner strength isn't about impressing others. It's about being able to look in the mirror and know you didn't betray yourself. And when hardship comes, and it always does, you'll be ready. You won't crumble, because you've trained for it. You've built resilience, not from reading quotes, but from choosing growth over comfort day after day. That's what it means to build inner strength, one thought, one choice, one moment at a time. 3. turning pain into purpose. Pain has a way of demanding your attention. It shatters comfort, exposes illusions, and forces you to confront reality with raw honesty. But what if pain isn't just an unfortunate detour? What if it's the very path? The Stoics taught us something radical. What stands in the way becomes the way. This isn't just about enduring hardships, it's about transforming them into fuel for something greater. The scars you carry are not signs of weakness. They are symbols of survival, resilience, and the inner alchemy that turns suffering into strength. The Stoic concept of amor fati, to love your fate, isn't passive acceptance. It's fierce engagement. It's the decision to not just face adversity, but to embrace it. To say, this too is mine, and I will make something of it. Instead of cursing your misfortune, Stoicism invites you to ask, how can this serve me? What can I learn here? How can I grow because of this, not in spite of it? You stop being a victim of circumstance and start becoming the architect of your character. Think about your most painful moments, losses, betrayals, failures, each one hurt deeply. And yet, if you examine those periods with clarity, you'll often find that they shaped you in critical ways. Maybe a heartbreak taught you boundaries and the value of self-respect. Maybe losing a job forced you to reevaluate your direction and ultimately pursue your real calling. The pain pushed you, but in doing so, it revealed a new path, one more aligned with who you truly are. The Stoics didn't escape suffering. They mastered how to meet it. Marcus Aurelius, while ruling the most powerful empire on earth, faced immense personal and political struggles. Yet he wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." He understood that adversity isn't the end. It's the beginning. Life is not about avoiding discomfort. It's about developing the inner resources to face it with clarity and composure. You always have a choice in how you interpret your pain. You can collapse under its weight, or you can rise by using it. That's the Stoics' challenge, to reframe every hardship as a trial designed to forge your soul. In the forge of adversity, weakness is burned away, and strength is revealed. When you stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and start asking, "What can I do now?" you reclaim your power. You shift from helplessness to agency. It's not romanticizing struggle to say that hardship is useful. It's realism. Pain is an unavoidable part of being human. But what we do with it, that's where power lies. Every moment of suffering contains a lesson, a truth, a seed of growth. But only if you're willing to search for it. Most people run from pain. Stoics sit with it. They dissect it. They use it. When you understand this, you stop fearing pain. You start cooperating with it. A failure isn't the opposite of success. It's part of the path to it. Every rejection redirects you towards something better suited for your growth. Every fall humbles your ego and sharpens your focus. You either stay down or rise stronger. The Stoic rises. Not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. They understand that suffering is universal, but growth is optional. And that choice makes all the difference. You can take everything that broke you and make it part of your rebirth. You can take the ashes of your setbacks and build something indestructible. This is how purpose is born, from the ruins, from the wreckage, from the unplanned and unwanted chapters, not in spite of them, but because of them. Pain becomes your teacher, and if you let it, it becomes your power. This is what it means to turn pain into purpose. To walk through fire and emerge refined. To stand not in bitterness, but in boldness. To love your fate, not just the parts that make you smile, but the ones that made you weep. Because those are the parts that carved out your strength. The Stoics knew this truth, and now it's your turn to live it. 4. Applying ancient wisdom to modern life. You don't need to wear a toga or quote Latin to live like a Stoic. The power of Stoicism lies not in history, but in action. It's not about philosophy in books. It's about practice in daily life. In today's hyper-distracted world, Stoicism offers a grounded path, one rooted in clarity, presence, and purpose. You don't need more hacks or trends. You need a framework that teaches you how to respond to chaos without becoming it. The Stoics gave us a map, and today, we build a system from that map. Start with journaling. This isn't just about writing what happened during your day. It's about examining your emotions, your choices, your reactions. Marcus Aurelius did this nightly, and his reflections became the meditations that still guide us today. Journaling slows the mind. It helps you process feelings before they become impulsive actions. It's the gym for your inner world. Next, set your standards, not based on what's trending, but on timeless values. What matters to you when no one's watching? Integrity, courage, discipline, kindness. These are principles the world can't give or take from you. When you build your standards from values, you become unshakable. You stop chasing likes or praise because your sense of worth is internal, not conditional. Then comes the practice of presence. We live in an age of constant distraction, notifications, headlines, pressures pulling us in every direction. But presence is power. It's the ability to anchor yourself in the moment, even when everything around you is storming. Epictetus said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." Presence dissolves imagined fears and brings you back to what's real. One breath at a time, one task at a time. This is how you regain control. And perhaps most importantly, Stoicism trains you to respond instead of react. When something unexpected happens, a rude comment, a delay, a betrayal, your instinct is to lash out or spiral. But a Stoic pauses. A Stoic breathes. That pause is where your power lives. It's in the split-second gap where emotion tries to hijack you but reason intervenes. You don't suppress your emotions. You manage them with mastery. This is why Stoicism isn't theory, it's training. It's an emotional gym that builds the muscles of resilience, clarity, and inner peace. Just like you train your body with reps and discipline, you train your mind to handle life's blows without crumbling. And unlike the quick fix of motivational videos, Stoicism creates lasting transformation. Motivation wears off. Character endures. Whether you're in traffic, facing a deadline, or dealing with loss, Stoicism applies. In a heated meeting, you choose to listen instead of attack. When plans collapse, you adapt instead of complain. When criticism comes, you examine it calmly. If it's useful, you grow. If it's not, you discard it. These are Stoic responses, not because you're suppressing your humanity, but because you're elevating it. Stoicism also thrives in simplicity. You don't need 10 apps or complex rituals. Just a few core practices done consistently. Reflect daily. Choose virtue over impulse. Focus on what's in your control. Let go of what isn't. This is a philosophy that survives pandemics, heartbreaks, market crashes, and personal storms. Because it doesn't promise a life without problems, it builds you into a person who can handle them. We all want peace, but most chase it in external things: money, status, escape. Stoicism flips the script. It says, peace begins within. Not when life calms down, but when you do. You apply the ancient wisdom not by quoting it, but by embodying it. One calm breath in chaos, one patient choice in anger, one honest act when it's inconvenient. This is modern Stoicism. This is power. So no, you don't need to look ancient to live wisely. You need courage, commitment, and clarity. You need to remember that your life is not a reaction, but a creation. Use these Stoic tools not to escape reality, but to rise above it. Not to appear strong, but to become unbreakable. The scrolls are old, but the wisdom is eternal, and now it's yours to apply. 5. The limits and the depth. Now let's be honest. Stoicism isn't a cure-all. It's not a spell you cast to make life perfect or erase pain, injustice, or hardship. It doesn't erase hunger. It doesn't dismantle systems of inequality overnight. It doesn't guarantee that the world will be fair. The Stoic path doesn't blind you to reality. It sharpens your vision. And in that sharper vision, you see the cracks and the chaos more clearly than ever. But you also see your place in it with greater clarity. That's where its strength begins. Stoicism doesn't pretend life is easy. In fact, it begins with the assumption that life is hard, that suffering, loss, betrayal, injustice, and failure are inevitable. It doesn't ask you to run from that truth. It asks you to stand in front of it and say, "Even so, I will not break." This is not about pretending everything is fine. It's about developing the strength to endure when it's not. It's about creating a mindset that doesn't crumble under pressure, but adapts, persists, and grows stronger through adversity. There are very real external forces that shape our lives: poverty, discrimination, systemic oppression, violence, economic collapse. These are not illusions. They are not simply mindsets to overcome. They are mountains. And Stoicism does not deny that. What it does offer is a method to approach those mountains with dignity and discipline. It reminds you that while you may not have chosen the mountain, you can choose how you climb it. And that choice, how you respond, may be the most powerful weapon you possess. Inner mastery becomes your first line of defense. When the world throws chaos your way, Stoicism teaches you how to become still in the storm. Not passive, still, not numb, calm, not detached, centered. It teaches you to respond instead of react, to pause before you strike, and to root your actions in principle rather than impulse. This self-control isn't weakness. It's the foundation of unshakable strength. Think about this. In a world where people are driven by fear, manipulated by outrage, or ruled by their appetites, the person who governs themselves becomes powerful, not because they control others, but because they control the only thing that's truly theirs: their mind, their attitude, their decisions. And in controlling themselves, they become harder to manipulate. They become more focused. They fight smarter. They don't waste energy on what can't be changed. They conserve that energy for what can be transformed. Stoicism doesn't make you ignore injustice. It doesn't say, "Don't feel angry." It says, "Use your anger wisely. Let it fuel action, not self-destruction." It doesn't say, "Just accept oppression." It says, "Don't let oppression rob you of your inner freedom." Even in the face of a corrupt system, you can live with integrity. Even in darkness, you can carry light. This isn't weakness. It's the most dangerous form of resistance, to stay principled in a world that feeds off compromise. This isn't blind optimism. Stoicism is not about smiling through hell. It's about looking at hell and walking through it with your head held high. It's about refusing to let external failure define your internal reality. It's about understanding that while you may not win every battle out there, you can always win the battle within, and that internal victory over your fears, your doubts, your anger is what allows you to keep moving forward with purpose. There's a kind of realism in Stoicism that most philosophies don't touch. It doesn't sugarcoat suffering. It doesn't sell you a dream. It says, "This is the world. These are your limits. But here is your mind. Here is your courage. Here is your choice." And from that simple premise comes the deepest power. Because once you realize you don't need ideal conditions to be strong, you stop waiting for permission to rise. Injustice will test you. Failure will test you. Betrayal, illness, grief, each one will challenge what you thought you knew about strength. And Stoicism prepares you for that. not by making you emotionless, but by giving your emotions a channel. Not by making you indifferent, but by teaching you to care more deeply, just more wisely, to fight harder, but more purposefully, to love boldly, but without attachment to what you can't control. Depth comes from limits. It's because we can't control everything that we learn what really matters. It's because we do suffer that we learn compassion. It's because we face limits that we uncover what's limitless inside us, our capacity to endure, to forgive, to rise again. Stoicism teaches us to sit with our pain, to breathe through our struggle, and to act from principle even when no one else does. That is depth. That is character. So no, Stoicism isn't magic. It won't give you a perfect life, but it will give you something far more powerful. The ability to live with purpose, courage, and integrity, no matter what life throws your way. It teaches you that while the world may not always be fair, you can still choose to be just. While others collapse, under pressure, you can still stand tall. While everything around you changes, you can remain grounded. At the end of the day, this is what Stoicism offers, not a fantasy, but a foundation. Not escape, but endurance. Not shallow comfort, but deep resilience. And in a world that often feels like it's burning, that kind of quiet, focused power may be the only thing that truly endures. You are the author of your power. You were never meant to live on autopilot. You were meant to rise consciously, choose intentionally, and live from your inner core, not the chaos around you. So what's next? Decide. Decide to reclaim your power. Decide to lead your emotions, not be led by them. Decide to live by virtue, not by fear. The Stoics left us a map, but you have to walk the path. If this resonated with you, subscribe, reflect, and revisit this anytime your strength wavers. Because the world will test you, but your response, that's where your power begins.